In today's video, I'm going to show you how to retrofit this M5 cluster onto your E60 BMW non-M5. As you can see the difference, it has the M logo. You can has the temperature for the oil. The little needles are red. The outside lights up white. It's really nice, nice little cluster. Not too hard of a retrofit. I will offer the service of virginizing the chip so that you can do what I do in the video, unless if you don't have any of the programmers to do it. But I am going to show you how to take this apart and to program the chip. Another thing also, you can't just buy this cluster and plug it in and expect it to work. It is going to require coding, and it will require taking this apart. Otherwise, you will get a bunch of errors on your car, and also a tamper dot. What the tamper dot does is it warns people from tampering with the cluster to try to change the mileage. Another thing also, if you're shopping for a cluster, try to get one that has less mileage than your car has, because it will display the highest mileage between the two. So if you buy a cluster with 180,000 miles and your car only has, say, 140,000, it will display 180,000 miles. So a good idea to find a cluster that has less mileage. But if you don't find one, you find one that has more mileage in your car. It is possible to change the mileage on the cluster only on the cluster, to match the mileage on your car. So you can only match the mileage on your car. You won't be able to change your mileage on your car to be less than what it is. Not only is that illegal, but you can't do that. You can only change it to the correct amount. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to take this apart, how to edit the little chip that's going to be necessary to do. That's the only way to make this work, is by taking this apart and editing a chip that's in here, an EEPROM file. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to install it and how to do the retrofit. So we got the cluster here. Now we're ready to take this apart. You don't need much tools to make things easier. You're gonna need a size 10 Torx, some tweezers. I got these gift cards cut to size to fit inside this little slot right here, and I'll tell you why when we get to it. And you can either use a soldering iron, or to make things a lot easier, a hot air station. I got this one. This is a fairly inexpensive one. It does the job just fine. Okay, so let's get started. So we're gonna have to remove from the back. There's 4 screws here, and we have to remove them. So you gotta get your size 10 Torx. You just unscrew them. Okay, so once you have the bolts unscrewed, on the top on each side, on the top and bottom, there's these little clips here. So you want to push them down and kind of push the panel inward to kind of get it unlatched. And then this part comes off. Okay, next thing you want to do is you want to remove the needles. Now, what you could do is there's always a way where you can recalibrate these so they're perfectly where they're supposed to be. So in case you're afraid of having it misaligned and then the miles per hour is off, there's always ways to calibrate it via coding. So don't be too afraid about it. If you want to be on the safe side, you can always snap a photo of it. Or what I used to do, I used to get a nice thin piece of tape, and I used to tape it in the direction next to where it was. But since I'm able to calibrate it later on, I'm not too worried about it. So to remove these, on the little base here, you want to pinch it and just pull up, and they just pop up. So now we got the pins removed. Turn it around. And earlier when I was telling you about these, I got these plastic gift cards and I cut them to a certain size. Now I folded these so they can be pretty thick because to remove this part from this back plastic piece, there's these little clips here that hold it in place, and they're really hard. There's one on top, one on the bottom. So you have to get them both at the same time on each side to be able to push it out. So I like to use these little gift cards. I fold them, I stick them inside here so it pushes it down, and then you're able to perfectly get it off. This is the little clips I'm talking about right here where they push down. So that's why using these on the side here pushes them down and lets you remove it easier. And so the next step we got to do is unplug the power here. So there's little tabs here. We just push it up. Get a little better view on it. Hopefully it zooms, it focuses. Yeah, right here, little tabs. It just pushes up, and then you can. There's some little clips here, and then these. Remember, these go through here. So that's why you want to unplug those first. Now, the chip that we're going to be working on, or we need to remove, is this chip right here. On this side. This chip right here. So we're going to remove it. Now you can use a soldering iron. Probably best if you can use like a tip like this. Let's see. Yeah, a tip like this one where you could heat them all out at the same time and get the tweezers to pull it out. Let's see, you can zoom in like this. But I find it, even though it's possible, it's a lot longer. I find it easier, so you can just use a hot air station like this one. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna heat it up, and then we're just gonna use the tweezers to remove it. Just make sure you know what direction the chip is. The letters are facing that way, and the logo is facing this way. So the logo is on this side and the lettering's on top of here. Now you want to make sure you put it the right way. You don't want to put it backwards and find out after you put it all back together. So once the heat gun is nice and hot, you want to just heat up the area a little bit. And once it's heated up, you can easily remove it. And this is the chip right here. Now be very careful because it's very small and it's going to be hot when you remove it. So just be very careful with it. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change the mileage on this chip. Okay, so now that we have the chip out, now we just worry about programming the VIN so that we don't get the tamper dot. Okay, so I'm going to be using VVDI Prog. I have the adapter here to read the chip. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the chip and make sure we put it in the correct position here. And then make sure everything's connected. And then we're going to head over to the computer. Okay, and then the chip on this one is a D80. So if you're using this program, there's another software to do it. Program here called RK270. I would show you guys on this one, but this software it doesn't work on my computer for some reason, and I never used it. So, but that's another one that you can use as well. This program right here is the best that I use. Let's see here. So once we have it all loaded up, we want to go here to read. And I forgot to mention earlier, just make sure you have your VIN ready because you're going to need the VIN right now. So we're going to scroll down to the bottom, and right here there's going to be 7 digits. This is the 7 digits of the original VIN of the car you got it from. So this is the donor. So what we're going to do is go to the beginning, so the C. So we're going to get the last 7 of your VIN. So in this case, this vehicle is going to be B1754417. And then you can save if you like. So you can put, let's see here, N5 cluster retrofit. You don't have to save it. Probably a good idea to probably save the original one if you like. I don't have to worry about that right now. So once we save it, we want to write it. So we're going to write it back to the chip. Okay, so now it's fully written. Now we just got to install the chip back onto the cluster. Get this. Once again, make sure you put the chip back the correct way. Now there's a couple different ways to do this. You should still have enough solder to just heat it back on there. Another way, you know what, I might as well just show you guys the right way. Another way you could do it is you could just clean up the area and use solder flux. So I'm going to use some, let's see. This is so I can just clean up the pads. This right, the thing I just put on right now is called flux. Like I was saying, you'd be fine just soldering it back onto to how it was before. But I figured if I'm going to show you guys how to do it, might as well show you guys how to do it the right way. And I'm not a pro at doing this really, but this might be a little overboard on doing it. So once you clean up the pads, you want to get rid of the flux. This is just rubbing alcohol. So you can get the area nice and clean again. Zoom in a little bit. See how the pads are nice and clean again? Okay, so make sure you don't lose your chip. Make sure you keep a good eye on where it's at. Alright. Okay, and then to get it back on, you could either use a soldering wire. What I like to use is solder paste. And I just put a little bit on there. I don't need a lot. Sorry, it should stick on here, but I don't really use this paste too often, so it's kind of, there we go, should be enough. Okay, and that will help you kind of line it back up again, the paste would. You want to use this. And if you look, it's hard to see, I wish I can zoom it in better, but the solder paste, it will melt all the pads back into place. So you don't have to use like a soldering iron or anything. As you can see, everything's perfectly soldered back in place. And now we're ready to just assemble everything back together. I could always do like a little, you know, have a little bench set up here where I can test it out before I plug it in. I don't have my cast out, so it's gonna show the tamper dot only because I have another one, but let's see to make sure everything's working good. And then all we gotta do is just put it back together. All right, to reassemble it, it's pretty much the same way as you took it apart. So what we're gonna do is put this back here. Just make sure that these go in here. We got to plug this back in. I'm gonna put the needles back on. Like I said, you can reference back to however you use it, whether you put a piece of tape here or took a picture of it, but I'll put it pretty much like right where the 0 is, and then like I said, I'll align it later on. And there you go. All we gotta do now is just plug it into the car, code it to the vehicle, and then we're all set. All right, so to remove the cluster, you wanna get your a size 10 Torx again. But I like using a little small one so you can have plenty of room. Now, the first thing you do, you wanna get your steering wheel and move it all the way forward and all the way down so you have plenty of room to remove it. So we'll go ahead and remove, there's 2 screws up here, and we're just gonna remove those real quick. And then the cluster just goes forward and then comes out. And there's a clip right here. And then the new one, just want to plug it in. And then and just gotta bolt it back up. There you go. That's all it takes to install the cluster back. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna program it. Okay, so what you want to do is you got to make sure you have your NCS Expert set up. So you want to load up NCS Expert. You want to go to the one where you can default code it. So default profile. F3, select E60, select CAS. Once it loads up, F6 back. You want to process the ECU, and we're going to select Combi. That's for the cluster. Select OK, and then execute job. And then once you're doing it, you're going to see the cluster turn off and on. And the only thing you want to do is just get rid of any errors that were previously on there before. Alright, once you finish default coding, everything should be good to go. Go ahead and turn on your car. As you can see, there's no tamper dot. I got no errors. Everything's perfectly fine. Let's see Maybe I can turn on the light so you can see it light up. It's still light outside, so it's kind of hard to see, but this is it. This is all it takes to do the M5 retrofit for the cluster. Thanks a lot for watching my videos. I hope it helped you out a lot. Please like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Comment below any questions. I'll be happy to help, or probably recommend any good retrofits I can do. Thanks a lot for watching. This is a quick video of what it looks like at night.